Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
Wendy had always been drawn to roadside diners. Something about their flickering neon signs and the promise of greasy food at any hour felt comforting. She made a habit of stopping at as many as she could on her late-night drives. It was on one such drive through rural Pennsylvania that she stumbled across a Wendy's she didn't remember ever seeing before. The sign looked older than most, the bright red W flickering erratically, as if it hadn't been serviced in years. The parking lot was nearly empty, except for a single blue sedan parked crookedly near the entrance. Wendy was starving, and though something about the place felt off, she chalked it up to being tired. Inside, everything looked like a time capsule from the 80s. Brown and orange booths, greasy tiles, and a menu board with sun-bleached photos. There were no employees in sight, but the lights were on and the soda machines were humming. "Hello?" she called out. From the back came the slow creak of a swinging door. A tall woman in a faded Wendy's uniform stepped out. Her name tag read Nancy, though the letters were peeling. Her hair was pulled into an unsettlingly tight bun, her eyes glassy and unmoving. She didn't smile. "You ordering?" she asked in a monotone voice. Wendy nodded, suddenly unsure of what she even wanted. She asked for a spicy chicken sandwich and fries. Nancy didn't respond. She simply turned around and disappeared into the kitchen. Wendy sat down at a booth near the window. That's when she noticed the blue sedan outside. Its windshield was cracked and there were deep gouges in the hood, as if something had tried to claw its way through. A damp chill ran up her spine. She turned back toward the counter, but Nancy hadn't returned. Instead, a different employee stood there now. This one was a man, shorter, balding, but with the same dead eyes. His name tag had no name, just a black smudge. He held a tray with her food. As Wendy approached, he didn't move or speak. He stared at her with a hollow expression until she reached for the tray. His lips twitched into a grotesque grin just as she turned away. Back at the booth, Wendy unwrapped her sandwich. The chicken was raw. She gagged and looked up to see that the employees, Nancy and the nameless man, were now standing side by side behind the counter, watching her, unmoving. She stood quickly, knocking the tray to the floor. It clattered, but neither of them flinched. "I'm leaving," Wendy muttered to herself and made for the door. As her hand touched the metal handle, she realized the sound in the restaurant had changed. The soda machines had gone quiet. The overhead lights flickered violently, casting the whole place in strobe shadows. And then came the screams. Not from the employees, but from behind the kitchen doors. Gut-wrenching, shrill cries of pain, as if someone was being torn apart. Wendy turned back just as the kitchen door slammed open. A third figure stumbled out. It was a man, but he didn't look right. His skin was covered in red welts, bubbling like it had been dipped in oil. His mouth was sewn shut with thick black thread, but blood spilled from the corners. He tried to reach out to her before the two employees grabbed him by the arms and dragged him back, disappearing behind the swinging doors. Wendy bolted for the door. It opened easily, too easily. She ran to her car, fumbling with the keys. As she peeled out of the parking lot, she looked in the rearview mirror and saw the sign flicker once more. Only this time, it didn't say Wendy's. It just said, "Welcome back." She didn't stop driving until sunrise. Later, she checked online. There was no Wendy's at that location. There never had been. Locals told her the building had burned down 10 years ago after a late-night fire killed 3 employees and a customer. The bodies had never been recovered. Some say they still show up on stormy nights, serving raw food and dragging the living into the kitchen. Wendy never drove back through that town. But sometimes, late at night, she still dreams of the kitchen door swinging open, of sewn mouths and burning skin, and of a place that's always waiting for her to return.
Story number 2.
Wendy always loved working the late shift at the Wendy's on the edge of town. The flickering neon sign outside was a beacon in the darkness, but it was also the only sign of life for miles around. Most nights, the place was dead quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerators and the occasional clang of the fryer. Wendy liked the solitude, the way the shadows curled in the corners of the restaurant, almost like they were watching her. One night, just past midnight, Wendy was cleaning the dining area when she heard a faint tapping at the window. She froze, staring into the dark parking lot. There was nothing there, just the empty lot, slick with rain, under the cold glow of a street lamp. She told herself it was just a branch or a stray animal. Shaking it off, she went back to wiping down tables, but the tapping came again, louder this time, and it wasn't at the window anymore. It was coming from inside the restaurant, from the kitchen. Her heart hammered as she walked cautiously toward the kitchen door. She flicked on the light, and everything looked normal. The fryer was off, the counters were clean, the deep freezer humming quietly. Then she noticed it. A single fry, perfectly shaped and still warm, resting on the floor near the prep station. Wendy hadn't dropped any fries tonight. No one had. The tapping noise started again, this time right behind her. Wendy spun around, but the kitchen was empty. Just then, the overhead fluorescent lights flickered violently and went out, plunging the room into darkness. Panic seized her as she fumbled for her phone to turn on the flashlight. The beam revealed a figure standing just a few feet away, motionless. The shape was pale, almost translucent, with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through her soul. Wendy wanted to scream but found no voice. The figure raised a hand, pointing at the fryer. Suddenly, the fryer's timer began to count down from exactly 3 minutes and 33 seconds. The fryer started bubbling violently, and a strange, acrid smell filled the air, something burnt but also metallic, like old blood. Wendy backed away, her flashlight flickering. The figure's hollow eyes seemed to grow darker, as if feeding on her fear. Just as the fryer beeped, the light snapped back on. The figure was gone. The fryer door creaked open slowly on its own, revealing a single, steaming hot burger patty with a strange symbol etched into it. Something that looked like a twisted W, almost like a signature. Wendy knew then that something was terribly wrong with this place. She quit that very night and never returned. But late at night, her friends who drove by the old Wendy's say the sign flickers and the fryer timer still counts down, waiting for the next unlucky soul to answer the tapping inside.
Story number 3.
Wendy had always been fascinated by abandoned places. It started with old train stations and forgotten amusement parks. But her obsession deepened after she found a YouTube channel that documented haunted fast food chains. That's how she learned about the old Wendy's restaurant off Highway 16 in West Virginia. It had closed in 2002 after a mysterious fire damaged part of the kitchen. No one was hurt, but the official cause was never released. Locals whispered about what was found in the freezer, though no one ever seemed to know exactly what that meant. After that, the property was left to rot. A giant yellow closed sign clung to the rusted front doors, barely visible behind the overgrown weeds. Wendy, yes, that was her real name, found the whole thing ironic and irresistible. She drove out there one cold October afternoon, equipped with a flashlight, a GoPro, and a portable recorder. Her plan was to shoot a quick exploration video for her channel. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. The parking lot was cracked and littered with beer cans, broken glass, and animal bones, some disturbingly large. The air was unusually still. As she stepped through a busted-out window, her boots crunched over shattered tile. The smell hit her first. It was like burnt plastic and something far worse, something sweet and rotten. The dining area was trashed, but what really disturbed her were the child-sized handprints smeared across the foggy, grime-coated windows on the inside. Her breath caught, but she pushed on. She spoke into the camera with forced enthusiasm, trying to ignore the way the building seemed to swallow her voice. There was a strange pressure in her ears, like being underwater. The kitchen was a different world. It was blackened from fire damage, with soot-covered walls and melted equipment still fused to the floor. Yet, in the far corner, the freezer door stood oddly clean, like it had been wiped down recently. Curious, Wendy walked over and opened it. The air that escaped wasn't cold. It was warm and humid. Inside was a single red booth seat, identical to the ones from the dining area, and a camcorder pointed at it, long dead and covered in dust. Carved into the booth's vinyl were scratch marks, not random ones, but lines, tally marks, hundreds of them. A child's drawing was taped to the back wall, yellowed and curling. It showed a stick-figure girl with bright red hair sitting alone. Next to her was a crude, smiling face with no eyes and long arms. Over the figure was a label, Friend. Suddenly, the freezer door slammed shut behind her. She screamed and pounded on it, but it wouldn't budge. Her flashlight flickered, then died. In the pitch black, something began to scrape along the floor. A soft dragging sound, slow and deliberate. She held her breath, too afraid to even move. Then, right beside her ear, a voice whispered, "Still hungry." The next morning, a trucker called in a report of a busted window at the abandoned Wendy's. Police arrived and searched the place. They found her camera lying just outside the freezer, still recording. It captured her screams, the sound of something knocking rhythmically on the metal door, and a long silence followed by wet chewing noises. Wendy was never found. But the last frame of her video, the part that somehow survived being deleted, shows a single frame of that child's drawing, now with a new figure added. A stick girl with a red ponytail, holding hands with friend. The tally marks had doubled.